This twice-baked potato casserole has all the flavors of a twice-baked potato, but without all the work. I will show you step-by-step how to make this twice-baked potato casserole. It is the perfect cheesy potato side dish that your family's going to love for Easter or any holiday. I'm going to show you how to get some mashed potatoes that are nice and cheesy and some make-ahead tips, so follow along and I'll show you just how to make them. Welcome back, I'm Jill with thecarefreekitchen.com, and today I'm going to be sharing with you one of my favorite potato side dishes. This is my twice-baked potato casserole, and this is so fun to take to any potluck or family gathering, or it's a perfect side dish for Easter. So follow along and I'll show you step by step how to make it. Okay, before we get started, here are the ingredients that you're gonna need. All right, first of all, I have some russet potatoes, and you can actually use red potatoes for this too. If I want to make them more rustic, I will just use red potatoes and I won't peel them, but today I'm using some russet potatoes. Since it's for my Easter side dish, I want it to be like a little bit more fancy, maybe not quite as rustic, so russet is for today. So, and then I have some butter and some cream cheese. I know cream cheese, but it does make it so creamy and delicious. And then also along with that, I have some sour cream to give it like that little bit of tang. And then of course we have some milk and then some seasonings. I have some onion powder, some garlic powder, and then some salt and some pepper. And then for the topping, I like to do cheese. And today I'm just using a regular shredded cheddar cheese, but you can use a Gruyere or a sharp white cheddar would work great. And then also I'll show you how to make some crispy, delicious bacon bits that are perfect to sprinkle on top. And then I like to add chives, but you could also use some green onions here too. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is peel potatoes. And when you are making a potato casserole, a 9 by 13 inch dish is usually a great side to plan for 15 people. So when I'm planning potatoes, about a potato, maybe with a mashed potato, a potato and a half per person. So that kind of gives you an idea. But for this recipe, I just did 5 pounds. So about 5 pounds of potatoes, which is a lot, but it does feed a big crowd. So I'm just going to peel my potatoes and then I'm going to cut them into about 1 inch cubes and put them in boiling water. And of course, I'm going to be sure and salt my water with about 1 tablespoon of salt. All right, so I'm going to show you how to make some homemade bacon bits, and you can use whatever bacon you like. But if you haven't tried, this is not sponsored, but the right bacon is some of the best bacon, and I use it every time I get a chance. It is sometimes hard to find, but this is a bacon brand that I love. And for this recipe, I'm going to use about a half a pound, and I'm just going to estimate. And these bacon bits add just like a ton of flavor to like the cheesy top. It just makes this so yummy. And you can also use like the pre-made bacon bits, that's fine too. But if you're making it for a special occasion, this is a fun and pretty easy way to really like level up your casserole. So I'm just gonna cut it. I cut it in half, and now I'm cutting it in little bits so that, you know, each little bit is just like a half inch or so. That is just about right. And then I'm going to put them into a pan on about medium high heat, and then just crisp them up until they are golden brown. And I like to lay them on a paper towel lined plate and then just let them drain so that any excess grease can just soak into that paper towel. Okay, as you can see, the bacon here is nice and crispy. That is just about right. We just want it golden brown because it's basically just like a garnish on top. So that is what homemade bacon bits looks like. So now I'm just going to put them on a paper towel lined plate, and then the grease will just kind of drain off of that. Okay, it looks like our potatoes are about ready here, and you can tell when you poke a fork in, it should be really soft. And so those are Just about ready there. Maybe just 2 more minutes and then they'll be ready to go. You want to be able to stick your fork in and then it comes out clean. All right, and then I'm just going to drain the water off of those. I'm just gonna add my cooked potatoes to my bowl here. And then on the hot potatoes, it's best to add the butter and the things that kind of need to melt, add those first. Okay, so I'm gonna add a few tablespoons of butter. And then I'm going to add my cream cheese, and this will make it nice and extra creamy. And this only calls for about 6 ounces of cream cheese. So this full brick is 8. So I'm just gonna estimate here. And then I wanna mash that up so that it can kind of melt as I'm mashing these potatoes. And one of the tricks to potatoes is to be careful not to over mash them. If you over mash them or put them in a stand mixer or even just a handheld mixer, you can make them really gluey. So I usually just hand mash my potatoes, and they don't need to be really fine. If you want a really fine mash on your potatoes, there's a potato ricer, and you can get those just online or at a kitchen supply store, and those are really fun to use if you want a super creamy potato. But I like a little bit of chunk, a little bit of texture in my potatoes, so I am just going to use this hand masher here. So a little bit of heat and your butter will be melted, and then also your cream cheese. I'll get just a rough mash on there. And then I'm going to add in some shredded cheese. Wow, as I spill it all over the place. And I'm gonna reserve a little bit for the top of the potatoes. And then I'm gonna add my milk. There we go. And then my sour cream. And this gives it like that nice little bit of tang. Just so yummy in potato recipes. And then I'm gonna add salt. And on my salt, I say 1 to 2 teaspoons. You can kind of adjust it as you go. I am going to add in not quite all of this. You can taste test it a little bit. And then as far as the seasonings go, I have 2 teaspoons of onion powder and a half a teaspoon of garlic powder. And this will add just a lot of richness and depth and flavor. And then I'll just use the masher and mash them, and then also it'll mix it at the same time. So on the inside of a twice-baked potato, it has this like really creamy and cheesy and fluffy potato mixture, and it is so yummy. But twice-baked potatoes, and I actually have a full YouTube video on it, and then also a post on my website for twice-baked potatoes. They are so fun to make, but they are a little bit more labor intensive. So if I am feeding a big crowd or taking something to a potluck, this is the way I like to do. Oh, and one last thing I forgot is just a little bit of pepper. I think it's about 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. All right, and then I am going to put this into my 9x13 baking dish, and I like to spray it with nonstick cooking spray before I put the potatoes in, and then that way like the edges all come out a lot easier, and it's just easier to clean up. Okay, and just gonna spray my baking dish here, and then I'm gonna add my potatoes. Ugh. Actually, I need to taste test this first to be sure I don't need more salt. So, you know, part of the job. It's actually perfect. So I don't need the rest of the salt. This time I used about 1.5 teaspoons of salt. So I suggest trying it before you add the entirety of the salt. And now I'm just gonna add my potatoes to my baking dish. And you can make these ahead of time as well. I have all of the instructions for making them ahead on my website too. And of course, I will have a link in the description so that it's easy to get to, and it's also a printable recipe, so you can follow along. So as you can see, some of this cheese isn't as melted, but that's okay. There is flavor all over, and if there's a little bit of a variation in the cheese or in the texture, that's great too. So, and then I'm just going to spread out the top here, make it all nice and creamy. There we go. And then I like to add a little bit of extra cheese on top before I bake it. There we go. And then when it comes out of the oven, I will add my bacon bits and then also just some chopped chives. There we go. Here is my twice-baked potato casserole. And now I'm gonna bake this at 350 degrees and for just like 20 to 25 minutes or until the top is all nice. Okay, so I've washed my chives and so they're ready to go. And I like to just get a thin little slice on those. They are so pretty on potato dishes and add just like a little fresh zing. And then of course my bacon bits, and you could actually double the amount of bacon bits. I wouldn't be mad at that. Uh, everyone loves bacon bits. So it's just a really easy way to top off and finish off this recipe. So there we go. There is our chives. Okay, here is my twice-baked potato. As you can see, it's golden and crispy and bubbly on the edges, and that cheese is just the right amount of melty and also crunchy. So now to finish it off, I'm going to add my homemade bacon bits. I mean, does that make your mouth water or what? So delicious. And now I'm going to add my chives too. A few of these chives. And that just gives it like a little bit of freshness and then also that little pop of green, which makes it so pretty. Here is my twice-baked potato casserole. It is cheesy, loaded with flavor, and so easy to make. This is one of my kids' favorite side dishes that we love to make, especially when we are feeding a big crowd. So I hope you guys love this recipe as much as I do. And remember, I have a link in the description if you need to go get a list of the ingredients and then also step-by-step how to make it. Now it's my favorite time. This is my... Oh, I'm an Idaho girl. I don't know if you knew that, but I'm an Idaho girl, born and raised. And so potatoes have been just like a staple in our household growing up, and now even all of my kids love them too. So if anybody needs a potato connoisseur, I'd like to nominate myself. All right, here's my potatoes. They're so good. Potatoes, best side dish, hands down. Always through and through. They are my absolute favorite. All right, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Carefree Kitchen. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow me here, and I will show you all kinds of fun and easy recipes that your family will love. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.